There's this primal awe that we all feel when we really stop and consider the power of a predator's jaw. It's this incredible force of nature that we have respected, feared, and yeah, even worshipped for basically all of human history. So our journey today, it's really one of understanding. We're going to travel from a world of gods and monsters all the way to the world of physics and data to try and separate the myths from the actual measurements. You see, before we had numbers, we had stories. In the ancient world, the power of a bite wasn't calculated with instruments. Oh no, it was consecrated. It was woven right into the very fabric of their myths and what they believed came after life. Let's take ancient Egypt. The Nile crocodile was the absolute, undisputed king of the river. Its bite was seen as a divine act, this kind of one-way door that once it closed, no mortal could ever hope to pry it open. So what did they do? They deified this force, making it into the god Sobek, whose power was one and the same with the finality of those jaws. And then there's this, Ammit. Here, the Egyptians basically created a greatest hits of nature's most lethal weapons. Ammit was the ultimate mythological expression of bite force. If your heart wasn't pure when you were judged, her crocodile jaws delivered the final soul-crushing bite, ending your existence forever. This wasn't just power. This was power as a final verdict. Now, over in ancient Greece and Rome, you had thinkers like Aristotle who started to look past the myth and see the mechanics. They watched the world's predators with a new kind of logic. They noted that a lion's bite, while sure, it was regal, was really for suffocating and shearing flesh. But the hyena had something different. It possessed this bone-shattering utility that could process what the so-called king of beasts left behind. Meanwhile, way across the Atlantic, in the dense jungles of Mesoamerica, the Maya and the Aztecs, they revered a totally different kind of power. They studied the jaguar, Balaam, not just as a predator, but as a master of a really unique and devastating way of killing. So what was the jaguar's secret? Well, it doesn't go for the throat like other big cats. It has evolved to deliver a skull-piercing bite, going directly for the brain. And what's incredible is that the Maya even seemed to understand the anatomy behind this power. They would depict jaguars with these exaggeratedly tall heads because they recognized that the sagittal crest, that ridge of bone right on top, was the anchor point for the immense power needed for this one-of-a-kind attack. All right, with the dawn of the Renaissance, our whole perspective on this is about to shift dramatically. That mystical gateway to the afterlife, it's about to be reimagined as an elegant and powerful machine. Meet Giovanni Alfonso Borelli. In his groundbreaking work, De Motu Animalium, that's on the movement of animals, he did something absolutely revolutionary. He applied the cold, hard logic of physics and geometry to living things, and in doing so, he started to demystify the power of the jaw. What Borelli figured out was that the vertebrate jaw is a simple machine, specifically a Class 3 lever. And just like that, the divine trap of the crocodile god suddenly had a blueprint. The power wasn't magic after all. It was math. And the system is actually pretty straightforward. You've got the jaw joint, that's the fulcrum, the pivot point. Then the massive jaw muscles provide the effort, the upward pull. And the load, well, that's whatever unfortunate thing is caught between the teeth. The mystery of the bite was being solved, one mechanical law at a time. Okay, as we move into the modern era, you can see how this understanding just keeps building. We've gone from myth to machine, and now we arrive at measurement. Scientists today can actually put a number on the kind of power our ancestors could only describe in legends. But first, we've got to be clear about what we're actually measuring. You've got force, measured in newtons. That's the total energy. Think of an elephant's total weight. But then you have pressure, in pounds per square inch, or PSI. That's that same force concentrated on a tiny little area, like taking that same elephant's weight and focusing it all onto the tip of a stiletto heel. And the principle here is crystal clear. The elephant uses massive force to crush that watermelon, but the stiletto uses immense pressure to shatter the screen. A predator's tooth, it functions just like that stiletto. It's a force multiplier, designed to concentrate all of that muscle power onto one single devastating point. So, how do you measure the bite of an animal that's been extinct for 65 million years? Well, you work backwards from the evidence. scientists found these fossilized puncture marks, which they figured belonged to a juvenile T-Rex, and then they set out to replicate the damage. And their method was it was ingenious. They laser scanned the fossil tooth, made a digital model, and then 3D printed a replica using this super strong dental alloy. So now they had the tool. The next step was to recreate the wound. Using this electromechanical test frame, they pressed their metal tooth into cow bones until the puncture marks perfectly matched the fossil. And the result? A bite force of over 5,600 newtons. That's an incredible number for a creature that wasn't even fully grown yet. Which, it raises a really fascinating engineering question. If you're generating that much force, how do you keep your own head from just exploding? Well, the answer is in their structure. Predator skulls are absolute marvels of engineering. They have these zigzag sutures that act like shock absorbers, dissipating all that stress. And they have internal reinforcements that channel those immense forces safely away from the delicate brain and down into some seriously powerful neck muscles. It's brilliant. We've journeyed through myth, mechanics, and modern measurement. We've seen the power of crocodiles, jaguars, even dinosaurs. But now, the time has come to crown a champion. So let's look at the tail of the tape. You have the bone-crushing hyena clocking in at an impressive 1,100 psi. The skull-piercing jaguar, even stronger at 1,500 psi. And the ancient deity itself, the Nile crocodile, a staggering 5,000 psi. For a long time, that was considered the absolute pinnacle of bite force in the living world. But there is another one, a predator whose power was, until pretty recently, just theoretical. A shadow lurking in the deep. Meet the true king, the orca, or killer whale, with an estimated bite force of 19,000 psi. That's not a closing door. That is a hydraulic press. It's nearly 4 times the power of the crocodile that our ancestors worshipped as a god. And just like that, our journey comes full circle. We went from understanding power as something divine to understanding it through hard data, from mythic reverence to mechanical precision. The object of our awe has certainly evolved, but the awe itself, that remains. So, from the divine trap of Sobek to the mathematical perfection of a lever, we really just arrive at the same truth. The jaw is nature's most perfectly engineered closing door, an ultimate and beautiful biological machine.